To install the Voyager hardware on your motorcycle, first, place the motorcycle on a clean, flat surface. Find all of the hardware. Hang 2 U-bolts on the left floorboard attachment. Now, loosen the right floorboard attachment bolts. Take one of the bolts out and attach the floorboard bracket. Take the other bolt out and install the other side of the bracket. Tighten these bolts. Now, hang the belly bracket bolts and washers on the floorboard attachment. Remove the rear motor mount nut. On some models, there will be a master cylinder here. If the master cylinder is not in the way, or there is no master cylinder, hang a U-bolt on the motor mount bolt. Make sure it is behind the exhaust bracket. If the master cylinder is in the way, find the extension bracket and install it on the motor mount bolt. Then find the extension attachment and install it. Do not tighten at this time. Hang 1 U-bolt on the extension attachment. Find the belly bracket. Hang the rear of the bracket on the U-bolt. Then hang the rest of the bracket on the bolts and U-bolts already in place using the locking nuts and washers included in your kit. Now tighten all of the bolts. These bolts will be loosened later to square up your kit. To install the rear axle brackets, remove the cinch bolt from the rear axle. Remove the bolts on the muffler bracket. Now, support the rear swing arm assembly with 2 jacks, 1 on each side. Remove the rear axle nut. Then remove the nut from the lower drive shaft mounting bolt. Tap the rear axle bolt part of the way out. Now, have a helper push the muffler out of the way and remove the rear axle bolt. Find the right rear axle bracket and install it on the rear axle bolt. Find the left rear axle bracket and install it on the rear axle bolt and the drive shaft bolt. Replace both nuts and tighten them. Install the hose clamp around the rear swing arm and the right rear axle bracket and tighten it. Replace the cinch bolt and tighten it. Then replace and tighten the bolts on the muffler bracket. After installing the wheels and tires on the Voyager, place the crossbar of the Voyager directly behind the rear tire of the motorcycle and install the kickstand on the rear of the Voyager. With the motorcycle in neutral, push it backward over the crossbar and rest it on the kickstand. Now install the jack stands on the receiver of the Voyager belly bracket. Install the jack stand opposite the kickstand first. Install the other jack stand and make sure the motorcycle is straight up and down. After making sure the motorcycle is straight up and down, remove the Voyager kickstand. Push the Voyager into place and install both front attachment bolts with a spacer and star washers and tighten them. Remove both jack stands and measure from the rear wheel of the motorcycle to the axle plate of the Voyager. Measure both sides and make sure the measurement is the same. If it isn't, loosen the belly bracket and straighten the Voyager. Tighten the belly bracket and measure the rear of the Voyager again. Repeat this procedure until both sides measure the same. Locate the left and right shock towers, U-bolts, plates, nuts, and washers. Install the shock towers on the rear of the Voyager. Do not tighten at this time, and make sure that they are installed on the correct side. Find the left and right rear suspension assemblies and install them. Slide the rear of the assembly between the bottom plate of the shock tower and the crossbar on the rear of the Voyager. Push the slide blocks onto the rear bearing receiver and make sure that the slide blocks are 3/16 past the outside diameter of the rear bearing receiver. Next, put the preload plate under the rear wheel of the motorcycle and back it up onto the plate. Chock one of the Voyager tires and tighten the U-bolts and torque them to 35 foot-pounds. Make sure that the slide blocks are 3/16 past the outside diameter of the rear bearing receiver. Also, check the shock towers and make sure that they are straight up and down. Find the bolts on the rotation lock and torque them to 20 foot-pounds. Find both rear shock absorbers and the attachment bolts. Install the bottom bolt onto the rear suspension assembly first, and then the spacer and the washer. Put the shock absorber onto the bottom bolt and install the washer and locking nut. Then install the bolt, spacer, and washer on the top of the shock tower and finish installing the shock absorber and then tighten all of the bolts. Install the rear mudguard and your motorcycle is ready to ride.
Hello, we're here today to introduce you to the Voyager Conversion Kit. It's a truly unique product. Changes your two-wheel motorcycle into a four-wheeler, gives you that stability of a trike-like ride. Let's go back in the shop and see how it goes on.
To easily install the Voyager on your motorcycle, first, put the kickstand on the rear of the Voyager. Then, line the rear wheel of the motorcycle directly in front of the Voyager crossbar. At this time, put the motorcycle in neutral and back it up over the crossbar and rest it on the kickstand. Now, install the two stabilizing jacks. Install the jack opposite the kickstand first. Push the Voyager into place and install the front attachment bolts and tighten them. Now, remove the jack stands and your motorcycle is ready to ride. The Voyager can be fitted on more than 100 different styles of motorcycles. The Voyager cost is less than half the price of conventional kits. It is not a permanent conversion. Absolutely no alterations to your motorcycle. The Voyager can be easily changed from one motorcycle to the next. It makes trailer towing a snap and eliminates wind shear when towing on the highway. It gives the stability that only a three-wheeler can give. There is no high-speed shake and no low-speed plowing. The independent suspension allows your motorcycle to remain stable over obstructions and does not give a rigid ride. By leaning into turns, the Voyager makes steering a breeze. The Voyager also makes high-speed stops straight as an arrow. The Voyager is the best of both worlds, two-wheeling and three-wheeling. The Voyager is a joy to ride.